Hey y'all, it's Diane with Shawcraft One and my old barn door, and I guess this is the next video in the creation of my little golden book journal. So I already tried to do this video one time, and I got about 20 minutes into it, and it was turned the wrong way. The camera was turned the wrong way, so you've been looking sideways if I had tried to load that video. So I had to delete it. And in that video, I showed you how to do the guide to punch your signature. And I showed you how to punch the signatures and punch the book. So you can see where I punched the holes in the signature. So I'm sorry that I can't show you that, but I do have a video showing how to do that in another video on my channel, and it's been a while back. But I will link that video below so that you will have that information if you need to know how to do your holes and stuff. So now we're going to sew the signatures in and sew the buttons on the spine. And this is the main reason I'm doing this anyway, because I had a couple of my subscribers who asked me to show them how I do that. So and I know there's plenty other videos out there that show how to do it, but I'm going to do what my subbies ask, and they asked for it, so I'm going to do one. So I take my embroidery floss, and I'm going to measure across the length of the book 6 times. And the reason I do that is because my signatures are pretty thick, and so I want to make sure that my thread is strong enough to hold those signatures in without ever coming out. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I don't do it exact. Oh, I've got a mess. Look what I did, y'all. I knotted up my... I hate it when I do that. Okay, let's see if we can get enough to make one more length. Where is it? Well, that'll make one more length, so we're just going to go with it, and I'll untangle it in a minute. Okay. So now that we have our thread, we're going to thread it through the needle. Sorry, I have to bring it close to my face to see it, because, well, when I turned 40, my eyes changed a whole lot, so. Okay. So what I want to do is make sure that this thread is doubled up. And most people say don't tie a knot at the end, but I do tie a knot at the end, and I'll show you why. What is up with me and this thread tonight? I can't function without getting it tangled up. Okay, so the reason I tie a knot at the end is because I'm real bad about pulling my string all the way through when I start through the middle hole. So if I do it this way, I don't have to worry about it coming through, and then when I'm finished, I can just snip that little knot off. So it just works easier for me that way. So I have both of my signatures here. This is the first signature. This is the second signature. I always start with the last signature of the book. And the reason I do is because I don't know really why. It just seems to line up better for me that way. So that's how I do it. So I'm going to go to the center, and I'm just going to thread my needle through that center hole. And especially when I have my signatures as thick as these are, sometimes I'll have to separate them so that I can find the holes in the next few pages. And that works just as well as going all the way through. Okay, and then I find the center hole of the back signature. Make sure it's the back signature, not the front signature, because you don't want them in there backwards. And push it on through. Now, y'all, my hands are weak, so I take a pair of pliers and I pull my needle through. Okay, and so I'm going to leave myself about this much of the string hanging in so that I hopefully will not pull it all the way through. Okay, then I'm going to turn this towards me, and I'm going to pick some buttons. Now, I picked out some buttons in that last video, and well, again, you didn't get to see that part, so I'm just going to line up my buttons. I like about 3 to 4 buttons per length. So this will be one length and this will be one length, and I'll show you that what I mean by that in just a second. So I'm just going to kind of pick and choose how I want my buttons to be laid out on these signatures, and I kind of like, let's do this one. Okay, so I want them to be up against my spine like this. Okay, so that's the order that I'm going to sew them into the signature. So I'm going to take my needle and just sew that in and pull it all the way to there. Now they're going to kind of hang off when you start sewing them in. They're going to kind of hang off until you get your threads tightened up once you get ready to tie off your signature. So it's a little bit of a process and it's fidgety, but that's okay. You can work with it. If I can do it, I promise you, you can do it. Okay, so we're just going to sew each or string each button onto the thread. And the buttons that have the 4 holes in them, I'm sorry, I hope y'all could see what I was doing. I'm not sure. I'm so bad at this videoing today. Anyway, come on, camera, focus. Hello, camera. Anyway, the buttons that have 4 holes in it, I usually try to go in a diagonal. So I sew through that hole and then I go to the diagonal one. I don't sew this side by side. Gracie, are you scared of the storm? Is that why you're whining at me? My puppy's is storming outside, lightning and thundering. So, all right, so I have my buttons on. Let me see if I can zoom in so you can see that a little closer. Okay, so I have my buttons on the string, and I'm just going to make sure that, you know, they're going to line up, and they will. So the 4 will fit. I'm going to pull this one down just a little bit, and sometimes they'll turn backwards, and that's okay, because you can always, you know, adjust them once you get your signature sewn in. All right, so you got your buttons on. Now we're going to go through the bottom hole of the spine. Okay, and I like to pull it through the hole of the spine and kind of pull it a little tight, but not real tight yet. And then I'm going to go through the actual signatures. Let me go find the center. Okay, now this is always a little harder for me. So I just do a few pages at a time because I never can get it to go through the whole thing at the same time. And I'm fine with that. So I'll go through a few pages and then I'll find the hole in the next. And then go through a few pages and then find the hole in the next. Just like that. And it works out pretty well for me like this because then I don't poke holes where they don't need to be, and I can just guide them in onto the needle just like so. Can y'all see that okay? I think you can. I don't want to zoom too close because then I don't want to be out of frame, but hopefully y'all can see this okay. Okay, and we're almost to the middle. And this is another reason why I tie the knot. See, I poked a hole there and I didn't mean to. But that's okay. You won't be able to see it. I tie that knot because see how loose I keep my signatures? So it just makes it easier for me. I know a lot of people can just go right through the signature. Well, I very rarely can get that to happen for me. And that's okay, because you know what? I'm human, and this is what works best for me, so this is the way that I do it. If this does not work best for you, there are lots of other videos out there that show you how to sew a signature in. And I, again, would recommend Gail Agostinelli because she has some gorgeous little golden books that she does. So she can show you a different way. So that's just, you know, if you don't like the way, if this way doesn't work for you, then, you know, you can always try something different. It just works for me. Now, let me show you something. You see this? This is why I tie the knot. Because if I didn't have a knot there, that would have pulled through and I would have had to start over and re-sew. So now I can just grab my little knot, straighten up my signature, and just tug it. And that way it didn't come all the way undone and me have to redo it. So I'm going to grab my pliers, pull it through. It just helps my hands. With the bigger needle, I have a very long needle. It's a doll making needle. And the pliers help to keep from making my hands cramp up so bad. Alright, so now I'm going to turn the book around. And you're probably going to be going the opposite direction because, you know, you're right. If you're right-handed. If you're left-handed, you'll do it the same way I'm doing it. But you can kind of get the gist of it. Now, see, I ripped that a little bit. But that's okay because I can go back and fix that. So I'm going to go back through the center of this signature. And I'm going to try and be very careful not to run my needle through these strands of thread. Because if you do, it's going to make it really hard. See how that does that? Let me show you. Let me see if I can zoom into that a little bit. Let me move my coffee cup because if I don't, I'm going to spill it. Y'all see how my needle ran through the thread? So I'm just going to slide that back out and go to the side of it. And I'm going to get a couple more pages. And a good way to do it is to pull up on these because it makes the string a little bit taut. And then you can go right through. Sometimes I'll go to the center and pull this up and hold it as I'm sewing through the center, because the center is always the hardest one for me. When you have to go back through the center, that's always the hardest part for me as far as sewing in signatures. Okay, so I'm just going to go through the center of these few and then pull up on these and go through the center. Hope y'all can see what I'm doing. I'm trying to make sure that it's in camera. Go through the center of these. And then go through. Now see, I think I went through the thread on that one. So I'm going to pull it back out. Pull this up tight. I'm going to tug on my middle string. Okay, so there we go. Tug on that. I'm just trying to check the camera periodically to make sure I'm still in frame. I don't want to have to do this video again. Okay, so now we're all the way through our signature, and then we're gonna kind of bend our spine up and put a little pressure on our string here. We're gonna pull our center string so that we can make sure that we don't go through the thread. Okay, so now when we come through on the other side, sometimes it'll catch the button, and I just kind of scoop the button over, push that through. I'm going to take my tweezers and pull it on through. There we go. Tug on it just a little bit. I still don't want it real tight. And then I'm going to flip my book over this way. It's easier for me to do it this way because I don't know if it's because I'm left-handed or what, but this just works better for me. So I'm going to flip it this way, and I'm going to decide which buttons I want on the bottom. So I have this pink one already on this side. I don't have an orange one, but I don't want the duck right there because it has a big button right there. So let's use this orange one. Let's use a green one. I don't want the orange and the green right beside each other though. So let's put the big pink one, then the green, and let's do a purple. Now, this is the way I want those lined on my book. So I'm going to sew them in order. So I'm just, well, if I can get the button picked up, I'm just going to sew them onto the, or thread them onto the floss. Okay. And then the green. And if I do the one with the 4 holes, again, I like to go diagonal. And then the purple. Alright, so it gets a little tricky here, or a little fidgety here. So I want to line these up to where they're all close enough together to look cute, but I can still get into the next hole, the bottom, or actually this is the top hole on the spine. Okay, so I'm going to zoom back out just a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. Oops, sorry. I don't know, my camera's doing something funny. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and push through the spine, just the spine for now, and I'm going to pull it a little bit tight. Let me zoom out a little bit more. Y'all, my tripod's breaking, so I'm trying to be super easy with it. Stop doing that. Hang on, I'm gonna pause you. Okay, there we go. So I'm trying to be super easy with my tripod because it's breaking. Okay, so I'm gonna pull this just a little bit tight, not real tight, but just a little bit tight, and then I'm gonna go back to excuse me, my spine and make sure that my buttons are spaced out and that they're turned in the right direction. So those look good. They're still going to be a little bit loose, but that's okay. And then I'm going to open it back up, and I'm going to go ahead and go through the signature on the bottom. So again, I'm just going to find my hole, push it through as far as it'll go, see how far I can get into the signature, and then I'm just going to kind of flip the pages until I can see the needle. Okay, so I can see the needle there. And if I can find where the needle ends, then that helps. And it's actually gone pretty good ways into the signature, so that's a good thing. It usually never works for me like this, so I'm a little excited that it's doing this good today. Okay. Alright, so still not to the end. So I'm just going to keep flipping pages until I find the very end of where my needle's at. Okay, so it's right here. So I found the end of it. So then I'm just going to take, I just had 2 pages left, so I'm just going to line it up with the holes that I had punched and push it on through. I'm going to use my pliers and pull because it hurts my hands if I don't. Okay, so now I'm going to pull that a little tight. Then I'm going to lay that needle down in there, and I'm just going to go and check my buttons to make sure that they're where I want them. Can y'all see that? So we're just going to kind of scooch them around a little bit. And this won't be the last time that you move them, okay? So just want to make sure that they're in a good position. Then I'm going to open it back up, open my signature back up. I'm going to take my the middle strand, and I'm going to pull. I'm just going to pull it pretty tight. Then I'm going to take this one, pull it pretty tight. Not tight enough to break it though. Then I'm going to take my needle and wrap it through this bottom strand. I'm going to pull tight again, and then I'm going to tie. And I usually like to tie them about 3 times. just to make sure it's not going to come loose. Okay, and then I'm just going to take my scissors and snip off the excess. Okay, so there's the center of your signature. Let's close it up and look at our, see, and the buttons are on real good now. So that's how I sew the buttons on the spine. So that's pretty much how I do it. I'm going to go ahead and do the other one on camera, but you know, if you get it, good, and if you want to watch it again, that's good too. So I've already measured out another length of excuse me, of my embroidery floss, and I tied it in a knot. Crazy me. I'm so bad about doing this because I get in too big of a hurry. Excuse me. All right, so let's get it threaded through. Tie my knot in the end. Sorry, I know I'm off camera, guys. Give me just 1 second. I'll get this ready to go. Okay, so we have our needle threaded. We're going to open up. We're going to make sure that the words are at the top of the book so that it lines up well. And I'm just going to lay it down in there and then go find the center. Okay, here's my center. So I'm just going to thread my needle through all the way through the center. And sometimes you have to jiggle it a little bit to make sure it goes all the way through. And then once it comes out, then I'm going to find my center hole on the next row and thread my needle through. Grab my handy dandy pliers and pull that on through. Okay, so I'm going to pull it on through and leave myself a tail. I'm going to turn my book around and I'll figure out my next row of buttons. Now, I like to line them up to where they're, you know, the colors aren't at the same spot. So on this one, I think I want the duck to sit right here because he's cute. And then we'll do a green down here. And then we'll do a big purple. And then we'll do maybe the yellow. Yeah, we'll do the yellow. Okay, so I'm just going to take my thread or my needle and my button and sew them in, or thread them in, or whatever you want to call it. Okay, so I'm going to take him all the way down to the middle right there. Get my next button, and these buttons, sometimes my needle don't want to go through. Yay, thank you. Sometimes the holes just aren't quite big enough for this large doll making needle. The holes in the buttons. Okay, and the last one, and I'm going to go diagonal with this one. Trying not to poke myself in the finger, which I just did. And then I'm going to leave it a little loose until I get this threaded through the bottom hole for the signature. And I'm just taking it through the spine and not the actual signature yet. Okay, so then I can just kind of hold it and pull it tight while I'm making sure that these are lining up the way I want them to. And they're not going to be perfect yet because we've still got to get our signature sewn in before we can do the final lineup. Okay, so I'm going to go find the center. I'm going to try to line these up. See, that's pulling, so I always have to be careful with that. And then just start threading it through the holes. And okay, and then we'll thread a few more pages, or maybe one, or however many we can get to thread through there. Well, there we go. There we go. Well, where'd he go? There he is. I might be slower at this, but I know when I finish it that it's good and tight, sturdy, and it's going to stay there for a very long time, and it's not going to come apart. So I would rather take my time and do it this way and know that I have it where it needs to be, than to try and rush and stick it all the way through all at once and not get it right. Okay, so I'm going to pull that, then I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to pull this back through so I can keep my little tail. I'm going to twist my book around. I'm going to take this string, pull it tight up this way, and then start threading through the center signature, or the center punched hole, trying not to put the needle through the thread that's already in the holes. This is why I leave my signatures a little bit loose until the very end, so that I have some wiggle room. It just helps me to do it this way. And again, there's a blue million ways you can sew a signature into a book. Lots of people have other tutorials, and if this way doesn't work for you, go try another way. And I'm not saying that like being snotty. I'm saying, you know, I'm not saying that my way's going to work for everybody. You know, things work differently for each individual person. So if this way just doesn't seem to work out for you, try something different. Don't quit. That's kind of what I'm saying, is don't give up. Just try something different. Okay, so I'm going to pull my needle through, pull it a little bit tight, and then I'm going to flip my book over this way. And the reason I do this is so that the area that I'm going to be working on is closer to my right hand, so that I can sew with my left hand. Okay, so now we're going to have to decide how we want our buttons on this end. So I like this one close to, actually I think I want a little one close to the duck. So let's do the blue one close to the duck. Then we'll do the orange one. No, let's do the light pink one, then the orange, and then the dark pink. So let's just get these sewn on, or threaded. Not real sure which is the correct term. I don't really think it matters. Whoops. Okay, so I've got them threaded on, and then I'm going to find the bottom hole in my spine. Okay, now when I flip this over, it's going to be a little weird because you're going through the middle of two signatures. So you're going to have this signature on this side of you, but that's okay. It'll work out okay. Alright, and then I'm just going to pull it tight. I'm going to close it back up because see how my buttons are getting caught up? So I just kind of want to pull that tight and move my buttons around a little bit to make sure that I've got enough room for all of my buttons to kind of sit flat. Just like that. Whoops. And now the green one. Oh, sorry. I know y'all, I guess y'all couldn't see that. Okay. So see, that's just enough buttons to cover up that strand. Okay, so we're going to come back to the center. And then we're going to thread through the top hole of the signature that we punched. Okay, whoops, that one's a little bit of a loose hole. That's okay. So I just thread a few pages at a time. That way I know I'm not punching holes in the wrong places and getting it threaded crooked and all that good stuff. Now my needle has went all the way through. Hey, yay. See, sometimes it works out like that to where it's really easy and goes all the way through for you. Doesn't happen that often for me, but I love it when it does. Alright, so I'm going to pull this tight, and I'm going to pull this tight. And before I tie it off, I'm going to go check my buttons one more time and make sure they're where I want them. I mean, you can still move your buttons around a little bit even when you've got it tied off. But I just kind of want to make sure. And I love the fact that I have just enough room for those to cover everything. Okay, so I'm going to pull this tight a little bit. Pull this tight a little bit. I'm going to thread that underneath there and tie it off. And I always like to tie 3 times just to make sure. I don't know, maybe that's an OCD thing. I don't know, but I just like to make sure it's not going to come untied. Okay, so we've got that, and then where's my scissors? Trim off the excess. So now we have the center of that signature. We have our spine and all of our cute little buttons on the spine. Now see, I don't like the way the duck's doing, so I'm going to jiggle these around a little bit until I get them in the proper position that I want them. Okay, and then I'm going to pull these down a little bit and just space them out a little bit. So see, you can do the final positioning after you tie off your signatures. So there is the spine of our book. We've got our signatures sewn in. And there is the beginnings of our little golden book. Now the only thing there is left to do is decorate it. So I won't bore y'all with that if y'all don't want to watch that, but if you do want to watch that, leave it in the comments below. I'll be happy to do a video if that's what you guys want. So just let me know, and we'll go from there. But for now, we have a cute little golden book. Say that 3 times fast. And I love the little tabs that are poking out. I just like that. So anyways, y'all let me know what you think. If you want to see me decorate the things that I'm going to put in here and put them in and decorate the book, just let me know. And you're not going to hurt my feelings if you don't want me to do it. It's just whatever you guys want. The main thing was just to get, just to show how to sew in the signatures with the buttons and how I do the pages in the little golden book. So hopefully this is what my subscribers was asking for. I hope that I helped you. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section below. Hit like, hit subscribe, and have an amazing day. Big hugs, you guys.